The protagonist of the show is Elliot Alderson, a socially awkward and depressed cybersecurity engineer from New York City. At first glance, his life seems pretty boring. His daily routine consists of going through his workplace, a tech company called All Safe, avoiding interaction with people, and coming back home. However, when it becomes night, Elliot turns into one of the most interesting people on Earth. Using his advanced cybersecurity skills, he has become some sort of vigilante. No matter how secure or complex a data encryption is, Elliot will find a way to hack it. He doesn't do it for fun, he just wants to bring justice to those who need it. One day he enters a coffee shop and sits next to the rich owner of the place, Rohit. At first, he has a normal conversation and talks about the impressive Wi-Fi installed there. However, a few minutes later, he changes his attitude and starts explaining why he's there. Elliot reveals that he hacked into Rohit's network and found out about his child pornography ring. There were hundreds and thousands of gut-wrenching videos, which Rohit sells to his customers for money. Elliot also mentions that he has copied all of the data and files, meaning that Rohit has no means of escape. Hearing all this, Rohit becomes worried, but he claims that Elliot cannot inform the cops because hacking into one system is also a crime. To his dismay, the latter reveals that he contacted the police right before he entered the shop via an untraceable number. This shows that Elliot always plans his moves. Rohit, who at this point has become very scared, offers him money to reconsider, but Elliot straightforwardly rejects it, claiming that he doesn't care about money. Soon the cops arrive and arrest Rohit the following day, and we see how a socially awkward Elliot manages himself in the all-safe office. He tries to avoid just about everyone, including his boss, Gideon, and remains glued to his computer all the time. But there is one coworker he loves talking to. It's revealed that the two are childhood friends and have been very close for years. Elliot has a crush on her, but he can't express his feelings because she already has a boyfriend. After work, Elliot meets his therapist, Krista Gordon, and we get to know that he meets her at least 3 times a week to help with his depression. As expected, Elliot has hacked into her details and knows everything about her. For instance, she is currently dating a middle-aged guy named Michael. Elliot appears to care for Krista, so he tried to hack Michael's details to get to know him better. But even after hours of searching on the internet, he couldn't find anything. Meanwhile, as part of the counseling session, Krista asked him several questions, but Elliot, owing to his awkwardness, didn't reply much. The therapy isn't helping him at all at home. He usually has bouts of panic attacks, which make him want to commit the unthinkable, and since he has no friends or family, the only way Elliot keeps himself from doing the unthinkable is by ingesting high-strength morphine. Here it is revealed that his father died of leukemia due to radiation exposure, while his abusive mother left him at a very young age. The following day, as Elliot is busy with work at his office, some executives from a giant tech company called E-Corp, or as Elliot calls them, Evil Corp, arrive. Elliot despises the company because he believes that they are greedy money grabbers who don't care about their consumers at all. Unfortunately for him, Evil Corporation is currently funding his company, and he is Evil Corp's vice president and chief technology officer. Tyrell approaches him and starts chatting over their shared interest in Linux. After work, Elliot returns home and carries out his routine of ingesting morphine. Shortly after, he is scrolling through the photos of his therapist, Kristis, when he learns that her boyfriend, Michael, has finally created his social media account. This gives Elliot an idea. Early the next morning, Elliot pretends to be a stranger and approaches Michael. He then borrows his phone on the pretext of calling his mother but instead calls his number to obtain Michael's phone number after the work is done. He deletes the call history and returns the phone. On his way home, he suddenly receives a call from his colleague Angela informing him that the Evil Corp server has been the target of DDoS attacks. Deep down inside, Elliot is happy and wishes that more damage would be done. But when Angela requests that he come over to help, he immediately obliges. After reaching the office, another coworker briefs him on the situation, revealing that the DDoS attack is the worst they have ever come across, and despite trying every single remedy, it won't go away. Elliot checks into the system and learns that the attack is taking place from multiple locations. Moreover, it is not a DDoS attack but a rootkit that is causing mayhem. The only way to get rid of it now is to go offline and terminate all the viruses, but Elliot Boschetti is skeptical of the idea because it could cause further damage to the system. But since there are no other solutions, he agrees to it. The next morning, Gideon and Elliot fly to their data center and begin the recovery. At first, Elliot redirects traffic to another server and then reboots the situation. The plan works, and the servers are finally out of danger. Later, when Elliot is going through the encrypted files, he notices something strange. He finds a text file named F Society that says, "Leave me here." Elliot realizes that the file was meant to be found by him, so he decides against deleting it. Instead, he hides it inside the Evil Corp server so that only he can access it later. In the next scene, as Elliot is returning home via the subway, a strange man named Mr. Robot appears. As he approaches, he asks Elliot to exit the train and meet him outside for a chat, but only if he hasn't deleted the text file. Hearing this, Elliot realizes that Mr. Robot is from F Society, the same organization that attacked the Evil Corp server, and C quickly exits the train and follows the man. After a bit of small talk, Mr. Robot takes Elliot to their workplace on Coney Island, which is a basement-like room with several computers. Unlike other hacking organizations, Mr. Robot reveals that here everyone has to meet physically and do things together. Elliot says, "Screw you, man. Do you know how many places offer work from home these days?" Later, after returning home, Elliot immediately logs onto his computer and tries finding out more about Mr. Robot and F Society, but it appears as if they are ghosts. There is not a single piece of information about them. The following day, an intrigued Elliot returns to Coney Island and chats with Mr. Robot. The latter reveals his plan to hack into massive servers, wipe out the world's debt, and distribute wealth evenly across the population. In short, he wants to start a financial meltdown and bring down the disparity between the rich and the poor. Mr. Robot further reveals that he targeted Elliot because of his vast cyber hacking skills and also because he has access to Evil Corporation. It turns out that Evil Corporation owns a whopping 70% of the world's credit industry. Elliot has caught himself between two minds as he wants to help those in debt, but at the same time, he also believes that robbing the rich of their hard-earned money is wrong. He mentions that you will think about it, but before departing, Mr. Robot assigns him a task. All he has to do is log into Evil Corp's server, modify the text file from earlier, and enter the IP address of Terry Colby, Evil Corp's CTO that night. Elliot changes the IP address and puts the records into a file, but he decides against submitting them to the authorities. He hates Terry Colby, but he doesn't want him to go this way. The next day at work, Elliot, his colleagues, the FBI, and the executives from Evil Corp are having a meeting about the cyber attack. Angela is doing her best to brief the situation, but the arrogant Colby ignores her and tells her to leave the meeting. This enrages Elliot, so he eventually decides to hand the file over to the FBI after the incident. Several days have passed since the incident, but the news of Colby's arrest has not appeared. Furthermore, Mr. Robot and his F Society have vanished, leading Elliot to believe that he was duped and has nothing else to do. He decides to toy with Trish and his boyfriend Michael, he calls him, pretending to be his bank officer, and extracts important details like his dog's name, his favorite things, and so on. Using the information, he easily hacks into Michael's accounts and learns that he is cheating on Trisha with several women, some of whom are underage that night. Elliot confronts Michael and reveals that he knows everything. He then blackmails Michael to come clean with Trisha or else he will inform the police, leaving him with no choice. Michael obliges, and thus their relationship comes to an end. A few weeks later at work, the news of Evil Corp CTO Colby's arrest is finally revealed, which makes Elliot realize that Mr. Robot and his vision are trustworthy. Later, as he is walking down the busy street, a group of suited men force him into a car and take him away. Soon they reach an office where several men are waiting for him. One of them is the Evil Corporation VP Tech officer that he met earlier. Tyrell, as it turns out, has become the interim CTO of the company after Colby's arrest. Tyrell gets straight to the point and offers Elliot the position of head of cybersecurity at Evil Corp, which would make him a millionaire in months. However, after thinking for a while, Elliot politely declines, claiming that he is content with his current work. That night, he logs into his computer and tries hacking Tyrell's database. Surprisingly, the new CEO of Evil Corp doesn't even use two-factor authentication, and Elliot easily gets access to his emails. He scrolls through it but finds nothing other than family photos. This is when it strikes Elliot that Tyrell wanted him to hack his database all along, and he disconnects his computer, turns off the router, and burns the memory cards to stay anonymous. The next day at work, Gideon summons Elliot to his office and displays a recent video released by the cyber hacking group F Society. In the video, an anonymous person in a mask takes responsibility for the recent attack on Evil Corp and demands the release of Colby. He also threatens the major credit organizations by dissolving their assets and distributing them evenly among charity organizations. Failure to comply will result in these major organizations getting hacked. Seeing the video, Elliot once again assumes that he has been duped. Later, he returns home distraught only to find someone in a shower. It is Darlene, one of the F Society hackers that he had met earlier. She has come to escort him to their hideout for the next mission. Elliot believes that he is going against the law and fears being caught, but suddenly he realizes that he can learn more about F Society and expose them once and for all. As a result, he agrees to accompany Darlene to the location. Elliot meets all the team members and chats with Mr. Robot, who starts discussing the next phase of their plan. He directs Elliot to blow up a gas plant near an Evil Corp data storage facility off-site. This will erase all the data that is transferred to China, starting their uprising. Elliot is intrigued by the plan, but since it involves blowing something up and killing people, he decides to stay out of it. However, while riding the subway, he realizes that he cannot run a business. He is no longer a member of F Society because he has become one of them. All these incidents have started to take a toll on Elliot's psyche, so he decides to increase his morphine dosage. He goes to his neighbor's/drug dealer Sheila's house, only to find Fernando, a violent woman abuser and drug supplier. Elliot appears to know everything about him as he is Sheila's only drug dealer who often visits her. He is the one who supplies the morphine that Elliot regularly consumes. This is also the reason why Elliot doesn't expose him to the police until Fernando is gone. His morphine is also run out shortly after Fernando leaves, and Elliot discovers Sheila in the bathroom, half unconscious and battered. He urges her to inform the police about the constant abuse she has been suffering, but Sheila refuses, saying Fernando provides her with very good deals. This infuriates Elliot, so he decides to take matters into his own hands. He anonymously leaks Fernandez's details to the police and gets him arrested, even if it means that his regular morphine supply is now gone elsewhere. As Angela and her boyfriend Ali are walking on the streets, a random guy approaches them and gives them a CD, saying that it's his new mixtape. When they reach home, Ali inserts the CD into his computer, and as soon as he does so, he receives an email from one of his girlfriends. She invites him over to her place to have fun that night. Ali, being a pervert, lies to Angela about having a meeting with his friends and then leaves, but we can see that a man named Cisco has hacked into his computer webcam. The following morning, Elliot meets up with Mr. Robot, and they sit on a railing to talk about their past lives and families. But in the midst of it, Mr. Robot expresses his displeasure because Elliot abandoned them some days ago, saying that he suddenly chucks Elliot from the railing and onto the rocky beach below. On the other hand, the interim CEO of Evil Corp, Tyrell, gives an inspiring speech to the CEO, explaining why his role should be made permanent, but to his dismay, the CEO reveals that they have found some good candidates whom they want to try out first. Hearing this, Tyrell becomes enraged and heads to an isolated location. There, he gives a homeless man named Hazem some cash and beats him to a pulp to vent his frustration. The men in this show are more twisted than the Targaryens. Meanwhile, Elliot wakes up in a hospital bruised and bandaged. He is visited by his therapist, Krista, who believes that he overdosed on morphine and fell from the railing. When Elliot denied this, she asked him to provide her with a blood sample. This is music to Elliot's ears because the current hospital he is in has a very weak security system. It is run on Windows 98 and has a puny antivirus as protection. As a result, he easily hacks into it and alters his records to make it look like his blood is free of drugs. After getting discharged, Elliot heads to work the next day, where Mr. Robot pays him a surprise visit that you then head to a bar to discuss, but Elliot is still angry about what happened earlier. He tells Mr. Robot that he doesn't want to be a part of his plan anymore and asks to be left alone. Mr. Robot obliges, but before leaving, he reveals that F Society is going to be defunct, as without Elliot there is no purpose in the plan. With the notorious cyber hacking group out of the way, a big burden is removed from Elliot's chest, hence, he starts becoming more social and interactive. He asked his neighbor and close confidant, Shayla, out on a date and also engaged in other normal activities like jogging, going out with friends, chatting with people on social media, and so on. At night, Elliot, Shayla, and the other Allsafe employees were invited to Gideon's house for dinner there. They reminisce about their work and the good times they have had when suddenly, on television, a news channel reports that the notorious hacker group F Society has struck again, this time releasing huge amounts of data that reveal that Evil Corp knew about the Washington toxic waste scandal that killed several people due to leukemia, including Elliot's dad and Angela's mom. The news makes Elliot sad, but now he has a purpose to take down the company, so he quickly leaves the place. Later, when Angela and Dolly reach home, they get into a minor argument about their recent relationship status, which has been mostly cold, taking this as the perfect opportunity. Ollie finally admits that someone has hacked into his computer to hack him. Cisco has sent several nude pictures of Angela, as well as her father's credit card information, and has threatened to release them. However, he can only prevent that from happening if he infects their workplace, all of which are safe. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, the couple seriously considers doing it. In the final scene, Elliot arrives at the F Society base and joins his teammates. Be sure to catch the following episodes.